Hear me?
Yes, Jason. It is good to see you and to hear you.
Thanks.
How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm all right. Oh, we're live already. I've been sick and it's been. I thought yesterday I was like, man, I feel pretty awful yesterday. I thought that was gonna be, when you hit the peak of it and then you start to get on the mend. But today I feel even worse.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't know. I may stick around the whole time, but I don't know how helpful I'll be in the conversations for sure.
I
I've
got
just
I
been
got
out
a
of it.
little bit of that too. A little bit sick.
That sucks.
Not my favorite.
Nah,
Um yeah. How
I'm
uh how are
still
things?
still happy to be here.
Still happy? You are
Yeah.
you are excited beyond belief to be talking with me about
About
Samson. Is this
I
is this the case? Would you agree?
yes,
Do you
yes, yes.
confirm these statements?
Of course I
It's
do.
good. That's great.
So what's
Okay,
new
I'm
with
just
you? It's been a few weeks since I've talked to you.
yeah. I'm doing a little bit more stuff as far as this little corner of the internet. I jumped on Grail Country the other day. Which one were you? You were on one of them. I remember you were
I
commenting on one of them.
I was in the chat. I saw you on there.
Yes.
With you were on there with Hezzy. You had some good questions for Hezzy and stuff. And there was like eight people or so. There were a bunch of people in there.
Yeah. It felt like a really good conversation. I was very happy to have that conversation with Hezzy.
Yeah, it was good.
Just fixing my camera. I'm about to next week is the last week for a little bit because I'm going to England for
Oh,
my 10th year wedding anniversary. So I'm very excited about that.
nice. That's
Yeah.
cool.
We're gone for 2 weeks. My wife used to live there, so we're staying with old friends. We're doing all kinds of stuff.
Are you gonna see some castles and stuff? Are there castles?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. It's England. Yeah, of course.
that's
I'm
what I
actually
thought.
I'm
I've
going
never been.
to I'm going to Merlin's cave. Like if there
What?
was a historical Arthur where some of the legend is from.
That's
Canterbury, where the
cool.
Canterbury tales are from.
Nice, nice. That's cool. Yeah, I got on my way back from India. I got like a 9 hour layover in London, so I thought, well, maybe I'll go pop around for a little bit, see what it's like. I've never been I don't think anywhere in England.
Yeah. Well, previously, so I'm Maltese. That's my dad's background. And so I've been to Heathrow Airport a couple of times going to Malta. Um, just switching flights, and that's all.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's what I think of England. I think of the stores and the airport. That's all I
yeah.
know about England thus far.
Oh,
Sandy
Sandy.
has
Hey,
joined the chat.
I wondered
what's up?
whose window that was, Jason.
Whose window?
Well, or whatever the light is behind you.
Oh, it's just in my RV. It's just sun's coming through there.
Yeah.
This is my kitchen area. It's my entire kitchen back there behind me.
Do you live in the RV?
For the most part. I mean, it's parked in my parents' house, so I go in their house. Last night I slept in there in my old bed because I've just not been feeling good. But most of the time I'll sleep out here and stay out here and stuff. So I don't like it's not completely livable because I mean it is. I can actually use the bathroom. It's just got a small leak. So when I turn the pump on, I just have to turn it back off as soon as I'm done, and then usually there'll be a little bit of water on the floor, which sucks. But I just gotta get that fixed, and then I think it should be good after that. But I
So
don't
I
know how to
love
fix
that.
it.
I love that you use the expression livable. My wife and I use that for anything we think is sustainable.
Yeah,
So if someone will be polyamorous, I'm like, yeah, you could do that for a year. It's not livable though. You can't live that way. I just yeah. I love
that's funny.
livable as a way of describing things. Yeah.
That's good. That is a good way of describing it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
think
yeah.
about that a lot more.
Yeah. Well, and
That's
we'll
just a
talk
good way
about
of
it.
observing things. That's like trying to observe the telos of everything you're engaging in, sort of. Is this livable?
Right. And there's
Yeah.
we talked about it. There's this show called Letterkenny. Have you seen Letterkenny?
Yes, I love Letterkenny. I like
Okay.
Shoresy more though. They came up with a
Oh,
spin-off
yeah,
spin-off
yeah,
show.
yeah, yeah.
Shoresy- It's so good.
So that's all filmed in Ontario. So I know people who actually work on the show. I know
So great.
Shoresy's body double.
What?
Married
That's
to
so
a friend
cool.
of mine. Yeah, someone who directed me and I
Ah.
directed in plays that we like did and stuff. Good dude.
Yeah, that show. So since you're both in Canada, are there jokes? Is that kind of directed more geared toward Canadian humor or something? Because that show's so strange. Like if you, I
so
really enjoy it. It's just weird.
go ahead, Sandy.
Out of curiosity, where is it filmed, or who films it?
It's with Bell, I think, films it, but it's one of them is all Sudbury. The other one,
Okay.
where is it? I can't remember. Either way, the
Sudbury.
actual town that Letterkenny is based on, my wife grew up in. Like my wife's sisters were in school with that guy, with
Nice.
Jared.
Sudbury
Anyway,
Blueberry
yeah,
Bulldog.
neither
I
here
was
nor
just
there.
curious.
Well, the
because,
reason-
somebody at my somebody at the little church, well, the other little church I used to go to, all just relative size. None of them were huge. Worked on. He was involved with the set that filmed. What was that one that had the series of high schoolers through like 2 or 3 generations?
Oh, Degrassi.
Yeah. Yeah, Degrassi. Yeah, so I went to church with a guy that did set work and artist stuff on Degrassi.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
one of
and
the
so the reason why I brought up Letterkenny though is they use the expression degen, like
Yeah.
and like a bunch of degens, degenerate, and generate.
Yeah.
Generate is like literally where we get Genesis from. So degenerate is literally the opposite of reproductive. The opposite of livable is degenerate. It's degenerating behavior that breaks everything down. Yeah.
Gotcha.
People know what that
That's
word means,
interesting.
right? Please tell me people know what that word means. I don't know like a
Degen?
billion words that people use here. And I'm like,
Degen is just a short
I
form
knew.
of degenerate. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
that-
That's not. I have never heard that used in like anywhere where I live, though. But I only know
Oh.
it from that show. That's why I was wondering if, like, because like when they'll do some jokes and they'll just go straight into them. I feel like maybe if you lived in Canada, you'd pick up on more of it. Like when they say Quebec, and then they go that like every time they say Quebec, each one of them has to say it differently. Quebec, Quebec, and
oh my god! Hey, I'm going to Montreal.
Yeah, I grew up with Quebec because I was very
Quebec.
far away, and my wife, who actually
Quebec.
spent time in Quebec, was like, "It's Quebec, not Quebec." Incorrect, Dave. All right, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
My friends, I think we should go into the Bible.
Let's do it.
Cassandra, time is a social construct because over here it is the afternoon. Okay, it is.
It's also a time frame that my ex used to call good morning, no matter what time of day it was.
Strange. This is literally. It can't be.
I will
morning.
not disagree.
We are approaching tea time. Okay, that is
true.
This is when you have a cup of Earl Grey. And so the section that we're on today, I just had it.
It was
what did I do?
great.
Oh, Judges 14. Samson's marriage.
Ooh.
Are you still making those
groceries?
Those things, yeah.
Yeah. I was looking at it because I was meaning to do more because I have this green thread, and then I bought these really nice, like I think they're like rosewood beads or something, and then I was going to use a few of these, and I wanted to do one to kind of look like a peacock if I could, like in each bead, like because they all have all the eyes around them. So I was going to try to use those colors and make one. I haven't made one in a while because
I'm not laughing at your beads, Jason.
Sandy has seen the meme that I'm sharing. It's great. You can find whatever version of Samson wrestling the lion.
No, that reminds me. My dog. One time, my dog ate a baby duck because I did that. Like she caught this little baby duck in the river, and I was like, "Give me that!" And she just swallowed the thing whole. Dude.
Swallowed it whole.
I just saw her throat do that, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Yeah, poor duck.
Oh my goodness.
We are going to go into it in a second. Here's the actual Judges 14. But before we do, I want to read you from something. Did you guys read Paradise Lost by any chance? Do you have to read Paradise Lost by
I
I know
didn't.
that I remember it. I might have had to, and I forgot.
So the major places where we have our understanding from of the devil is not from the Bible, but from Milton's Paradise Lost.
Ooh.
He goes blind later in life, and he writes an epic tragedy play on Samson. That's the last thing he ever writes, and you can feel him relating to the character of Samson in the fact that Samson goes blind in the later part of his life.
Wow.
He's imprisoned. Milton is imprisoned at the end of his life as well, and he's blind at the end of his life, and so you can feel him writing about denigrated Samson as a character he understands. So before we go into this, would you guys mind if I read just a paragraph from this epic
2
play?
thumbs up.
Yeah, please.
Okay. This is he softly a while. Let us not break in upon him. O change beyond report, thought, or belief. See how he lies at random, carelessly diffused, with languished head unprompt, as one past hope abandoned, and by himself given o'er, in slavish habit, ill-fitted weeds, o'erworn and solid. Or do my eyes misrepresent? Can this be he, that heroic, that renowned, irresistible Samson, who unarmed no strength of man or fierce wild beast could withstand, who tore the lion as the lion tears the kid, ran on embattled armies clad in iron, and weaponless himself, made arms ridiculous, useless the forgery of brazen shield and spears, the hammered cuirass, calabine tempered steel, the frock of mail, adamantium proof, but but safest he who stood aloof when insupportedly his foot advanced, in scorn of their proud arms and warlike tools, spurned them to death by troops. The bold acclamite fled from his lion ramp. Old warriors turned their plated backs under his heel, or groveling solid their crested helmets in the dust. Then, with that trivial weapon came to hand the jaw of an ass, his sword of bone. 1,000 foreskins fell. The flower of Palestine, the remnant Lecce, famous to this day. Then by main force, pulled up on his shoulders, bore the gate of Gaza post, the massy bar, up to the hill of Hebron, seat of giants old, no sojourn of a Sabbath day, and loaded so, like whom the Gentiles framed to bear up heaven. Which shall I first bewail? Thy bondage or lost sight, prison within prison, inseparably dark. Thou art become a worst imprisonment, the dungeon of thyself, thy soul, which men enjoying sight oft without cause complain, imprisoned now indeed, in real darkness of the body dwells, shut up from outward light, to incorporate with gloomy night, for inward light, alas, puts forth no visual beam. I'll pause there. How'd that go for you? You enjoy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
It is very epic.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah. Sad. He's sad. Okay. He's sad. He's in chains. Is this possibly the man who lifted these gates, who killed soldiers with the jawbone of an ass? Possibly him. We'll see what happens. Okay. We're going to go in. And as we go in, will one of y'all read about Samson's marriage?
Can we do it? I can do it.
Yes.
If you scroll. All right. Samson went down to Timnah, and at Timnah he saw one of the daughters of the Philistines. And he came and told his father and mother, I saw one of the daughters of the Philistines at Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife. But his father and mother said to him, Is there not a woman among the daughters of your relatives or among all our people that you must go and take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? But Samson said to his father, Get her for me, for she is right in my eyes.
Pause. First off,
All right.
you have to do the parents as though they're Jewish, okay? You have to do it as old
Yeah.
Jewish, okay?
Speaking Yiddish.
Is there
I
not
don't know how to do that.
Is there not a woman among the daughters of your relatives or among all your people that you must go and take a wife from the uncircumcised Palestinians?
You're so much better at this. You should just do it. It's like Fiddler on the Roof. It's hard to
Sorry.
not laugh anymore, too, because me and Hezzy were joking back and forth a while back where Samson says, Get her for me. It's just like so demanding of his father. Get her for me. And he posted that meme of what was it, Will Ferrell, where he's like in Wedding Crashers, where he's like, Mom, the meatloaf. Get her for me.
Meatloaf.
Mom.
Yeah.
Mom.
Get her for me. Yes. There's a couple of moments in the Bible that I think to properly understand, you must read with a Yiddish accent. I believe that when Jesus's parents are upset that he went to the temple, Jesus, do you see how upset your mother and I are? Like it says how upset you made your mother. You're breaking your mother's heart. Why did you do that? Like it's just, there's certain moments where the Judaism of the text is so culturally present. I don't know how else to explain it. Anyway, this is one of these ones. You're breaking your mother's heart. Well, you're come on. None of these foreign ladies. Sorry, this one is ever so slightly racist. My friend is Armenian, and he dated a black girl and introduced this girl to his grandmother as his girlfriend, and his grandmother just said no and walked away.
Grandmothers and the reasons to love them anyway.
Yes, but she doesn't speak English. She had everything she said it was in Armenian and just went no and just walked away. No, I can't with this. But Jason, why did I make you stop here? Samson said to his father,
She's right in my eyes. But which is interesting because I read New King James usually, and I wish mine said that because mine says she pleases me well, which is like it reads totally different. When you see it says that she is right in my eyes, it makes you think of the thing you mentioned before. Everyone did what is right in his own eyes.
Yes. Yeah. And that is reflected in the Hebrew. It is this idea of good in eyes, right? Like pleasing in his sight. Pleasing just means like good in my eyes. I connected also with when Jesus says the eyes are the lamp of the body.
That's what I was just going to ask about.
Yeah. What are you asking about? I like Cassandra. Shots fired. We're 20 minutes in. And 3 verses deep, everyone. Shots fired.
You know, just that's where my thoughts immediately went to. It's, you know, your eyes are the windows of your soul. And I'm like, well, if she's right in his eyes, what the heck has he got in his soul? Like,
that's right. No, exactly. You are exactly right. right? It's like at some point, I knew this girl in high school, and she just dated douchebag after douchebag. And at some point, I'm like, she was telling me again, one of her problems with a guy. And I was like, at some point, you have to take responsibility, right? And I had to do that for myself, responsibility for what kind of love I thought I deserved and wanted. One of my ex-girlfriends called me not too long ago, like got in contact with me because she was really sorry for how things had gone down, where she was like, I did not treat you well. And I told her I was in a really bad place when we were together. And if you wouldn't have treated me like that, I would have found someone who would. That is as I forgave her. It's not that what she did wasn't wrong, but I had to take some kind of responsibility for the fact that she was right for me in my eyes. That's what I wanted.
Huge cringe factor.
Yes. Yeah. You should feel terrible when I say something like that. Sandy, do you feel terrible? Jason, do you feel terrible?
No. No, not at all.
I'm so sorry, but my mind is still jumping between she was in his eyes and the dog chewing faster.
Give it back. Give it. Give it. Give it back.
It me.
Get out of that mouth. Get it. I love the look of that line. Okay. Let's continue on. Shall we?
Yes, let's do it.
That's you, Jason. You're the one you're the most literate of all of us.
No, I'm not. Then so do I read 4? I'm not gonna do the voice. I can't do the voice. His father and mother did not know. His father and mother did not know that it was from the Lord, for he was seeking an opportunity against the Philistines. At that time, the Philistines ruled over Israel.
Who is he? Sorry.
Who is he? Yeah.
Yeah. Who is he? He was seeking an opportunity against the Philistines. Is Hashem he or is Samson he?
I don't know. I was thinking it's probably Hashem, but I'm not. I'm as confused on that as you are.
Yeah, it's an interesting he. I think it's probably Hashem. I think it is. I think it's if God must, he will use the weakness of human beings, if he must, to make good occur in the world. That's what I would say.
It's a good way to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be great if he could use Samson's strength, but he must use Samson's weakness.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah. Go.
My mind is going. Right. Hosea wasn't the first person sent off to find a very unhealthy wife. Yes.
Yeah. He likes messed up ladies. That is his type. He's got a type.
I can only imagine what my parents would say if I went to them like Hosea and was like, the Lord told me to marry this whore. Like, they would probably not be too thrilled.
Well, Samson sleeps with the prostitute, sleeps with this Philistine woman, and then his most famous relationship is with the dominatrix. I'm sure his parents. Hey, it'd be really fun is if I tied you up. This is our hero. This is
our hero.
I'm
not judging him. It's understandable.
He's like Batman. This is who we deserve. This is not the judge that we wanted, but the one we deserve. Jason, continue, please.
Then Samson went down with his father and to Timnah, and they came to the vineyards of Timnah, and behold, a young lion came toward him roaring. Then the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and although he had nothing in his hand, he tore the lion in pieces as one tears a young goat. But he did not tell his father or his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and she was right in Samson's eyes.
Again, so it's reiterating. She was right in his eyes. She's right in his eyes. If you're not picking up the pattern, you're not paying attention to it. Jason, you were not here last week.
Nope.
This is my favorite metaphor in the Bible.
What is it? The lion thing?
He tore the lion in pieces as one tears a young goat.
Yeah, why is that? Say more about that. I'd be interested in why that's your favorite. Why you?
Because I like the idea that it was so well known how easy it was to tear apart a young goat. That he just says this and people are like, oh, yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
Like that this metaphor was understood so quickly. He tore him apart as easily as you could tear apart a goat. Oh, okay. That's it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to rip goats apart. We've all
done
accidentally ripped a goat apart, right? It's very easy. It's like a wet paper towel, right? That's what young goats are like, apparently. Okay,
That's
Jason.
hilarious.
Seriously.
Well,
yeah.
Let's see. There was something I wanted to ask about. Is there a connection with the vineyards? Why he went to the vineyards? Because I mean, I know he's supposed to be a Nazirite as well and never like drink wine and stuff. I'm just always, when I see stuff like that, I'm always about that.
It's not just that he's not allowed to drink wine. He's not allowed to eat raisins. He's not allowed to drink grape juice. He's not allowed.
He wants to do that anyway.
So there are repeated questions about where Samson finds himself. So a Nazirite is not to come in contact with an unclean and especially a dead body. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He is going, and he's not supposed to be drinking wine. He will be grabbing, eating honey out of the carcass of a lion in a vineyard. It's like, how'd you end up here, buddy? How did you end up here at all?
So I'm wondering, it's just kind of in the words. So Samson goes down with his father and mother to Timnah. They, more than one person, came on the vineyards of Timnah. And behold, a young lion comes towards him roaring. Jump down a couple of sentences. But he did not tell his father or his mother what he had done. Where were they when all this happened?
Look, we've all had weird interactions at a gas station that we don't tell our parents about, okay? They clearly were taking a bathroom break at the vineyard.
Don't look this way. Nothing to see.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting. I always thought that was interesting too, why it says, but he didn't tell his mother and mother. Like I don't know. Well, this whole thing is just strange. Like it reminds me of some weird fairy tale. Like if you read it and you're like, if it wasn't in the Bible and I was just reading it somewhere else, I would think it's probably some fairy tale someone wrote or something. The whole story of Samson. It's just really interesting. And the way everything seems like strangely connected, but kind of not connected as well. Like kind of random at the same time.
Okay, but the timing of it. Okay. Yes.
What is that?
So the timing of it. Okay, they come to the vineyards. The lion came towards him roaring. The Spirit of the Lord rushes upon him. This is all happening like in the now. And he has nothing in his hands, rips the lion to pieces, but doesn't say anything to his father and mother about what he just did. Aren't they still there?
Well, and so so there are big questions about this. It might be that he's meeting them there. It's a good question.
I thought you were going to say it's been edited.
Been edited. Yeah. The areas where Samson operates is also an area which is very, very well known as an area where Joshua kills giants. Okay, so some of the biggest stories are all about Hebron, and even in the Samson epic that I was reading from, it refers to the place where the gates are pulled up as the place of giants. Okay, it's where Judah specifically kills giants, and in the Book of the Giants, which is a Second Temple text that was found, a guy named Gilgamesh is referred to as one of the giants. Okay, so
No
this
way.
is in.
Wait, what
Yeah,
is
go
this
ahead.
book?
The Book of the
Oh,
Giants is within Second Temple literature.
okay.
They believed that some of the gods and heroes of other religions were the Nephilim spoken of in Scripture.
That's
And
interesting.
one of the characters that are referred to in these extra biblical material as being Nephilim was someone named Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is within his own story part god. Okay, so
I was thinking he's a demigod, right?
Yeah, 2/3 they made him God, and 1/3 man. And this is the image. Here is Gilgamesh.
With his pet lion.
Holding, again, with this image of the hero, like you said, sounds like sounds like a story from mythology. Here is an image of, like, if you told me this was Samson, that would make sense. But yeah, Gilgamesh is clearly a giant because look at how.
What is Second Temple literature?
Second Temple is basically, I would include New Testament as Second Temple. It's Herod's temple. So it's this.
But it was prior to also, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Okay. That's right.
So it's kind of within like 100 years either direction, kind of.
Yeah, that would be a safe way of speaking of it. So you'd have some writings that are after Jesus. So was this influenced by Christianity? Some stuff that's right before. So you get to see how people were thinking in those at that time. But it's also interesting because we have documented what some Jews were talking about 2,000 years ago, right? So a lot of the Jewish tradition is Talmud is written down later, but a lot of it we can show to be reliable because we can still find it in Second Temple, right?
Okay.
And some.
I was curious. I had a conversation yesterday that I think was within this same time frame of writings, and whether or not the view then was the view now, or had it been somewhat like edited the way that the Christian texts kind of got,
right
shrunk down to these are the ones you want to read and these are the ones that you kind of leave over there.
Yeah, but I wonder specifically with these texts, because you can see how some people were talking about it, because you also have the pregnancy related to an angel meeting the mother alone. To what extent there's questions about the giants, the heroes. Sometimes in depictions, Samson is huge, enormous, right? And so he might be this anti-Nephilim character, but at the same time, he could
be descended from on either side.
Well, he acts like them. He just takes random women that he wants. He's a bit of a pillager, but it's how good of a character is this guy?
Get her for me.
Get her for me.
Jesse, you should get in here. We're talking about the meatloaf. But well, I'd be curious. So, like you, I've heard people say before, like with these, some of the stories in Judges, that it's almost like a correction on ancient mythology. And that's fine. I just correction on like ancient mythology, like you could have Samson as a type of like Hercules, but it's like
who also wrestled a famous lion.
Which is, but then Hercules, I thought was, well, I guess it'd be Phoenician, right? Is that more ancient than the Jewish stuff?
It's difficult to figure out
about this. Something about it just never feels completely satisfactory to me, because I feel like it's kind of it's kind of the way Christians will say like the like certain God, like this is the story correcting the other story or something like that. Like Christians will make certain arguments in that same way towards Jewish text. So like I don't think it's entirely wrong to say that. It just feels like, so for some reason I always feel like it's a little incomplete or something. But I
Yeah.
don't know how they even get these stories. Like, and I to actually correct them, because I'm like, I thought Hercules came way later than this text, but I don't know.
Yeah. And when that is occurring, I don't. It's not for me. It's not against the historicity of the event, but instead, God being explicit about what his character is like compared to the character of these other gods that the comparison is being made to. Right. So there's definite work which is happening where the Israelites clearly are saying, no, Baal is not the cloud rider. Hashem is. He is not the king of the gods. Hashem is. Hashem is the king of the gods. Hashem is king of king and lord of lords. So you use those terms directly to say, no. This is more true of ours than yours.
Well, even with that point, like I usually feel weird about that too, because I feel like that's almost weirdly a reduction of God when you say, like, Baal is not the cloud rider, God, like or Hashem is. It's like kind of bringing Hashem down. Like Hashem is like higher than that. Usually I don't know about Baal, but like the other ones, storm gods that are usually associated with planets. Like Zeus is the planet Jupiter. So it's weird. It feels weird to me to bring God down to that. It feels like it's bringing God down to that level or something.
So I have an odd question there. And sorry, it's not a verbal question. It's a visual question. But I'm doing the Vervaeke course, which doesn't really help my
What's a visual question?
Huh?
What's a visual question?
It got asked inside my head in kind of like a motion, a visual motion instead of verbal sentence.
Structure. Go nuts.
Okay, so picture the hourglass. You say, does it bring God down? And in one sense, it may bring God down into the sphere of the other gods, but does it not also... what I saw was the motion both directions. Contracting to meet the understanding of the people and bringing the understanding of the people back out and up into the... And I don't know if that's a thing, but that's
no. I think you're very right. Someone like Moses Maimonides is very worried that we're going to take these metaphors about God too literally. But it's like
idolatry.
If I said something like God is the true loving Father, that's more what I think is occurring when I say something like he's the true king of the gods. He's the true cloud rider. He's the one who crushes the heads of Leviathan, right? Yeah. That frame, crushes the heads of Leviathan, appears in the Psalms, but we know from Ugaritic, I believe is Yom. Yom is the one who battles this ancient dragon to create the world. And it's Leviathan, Lotan is the ancient primordial dragon is killed and its heads are crushed. So it seems to me that the biblical writer is saying, no, that's God. God is the destroyer of chaos. He's the one who destroys the dragon. He's the true hero.
I like how... Sorry, go ahead.
I apologize. I have a very hard time in conversations like happen in the philosophical realms or some of the theological realms that happen around me in this area, because I don't know, like I literally am this visual tactile processor and I'm like, everything in me is going, but I don't hear it that way because I hear it inside, not in my ears, like inside. I had a conversation somewhere, might have been in Grail country, about Evelyn Glennie, who's a deaf percussionist. And my minister gave me a video by her called Touch the Sound. It's about documentary about her life. And she said, okay, tell me where you hear this. And she goes, I'll ask people that all the time, and hearing people are going, well, I hear it in my ears, like, duh. And she's going, no, where do you hear this? The depth of the tones or the height of the tones.
There's a reason why people would pay for really good sound systems that have a lot of bass.
The brown
Right?
note.
Yeah, I had musician friends who, one of whom had a studio once, and he said, "Go and sit right here. Now tell me what you hear." And I just about burst into tears for the same reason that I'm saying this thing about, like, I mean, it's an hourglass isn't even the best example, except the shape moves if you move your hands over it. But I'm listening to this going, I can't not hear it. Somewhere deep inside that goes, how can you say that means only this? Right. Even though logically I understand I understand Jacob ranting about Christians being so silly as to limit God to 3 perceptions of his being. You know, when he goes, why not 4? Why not 5? Why not 10? Why not 1,000? And I'm like, so I'm hearing this conversation here in that same place where I'm like, you say one thing about God, it's always 1,000.
Right.
It's I'm just sounding like I'm ranting some kind of.
No. It's good. I think I want to get through this piece of text, but I think that as we're talking about this too, lions, especially in the Book of Kings, will be forces of God's vengeance. It's part of what happens in the land of Samaria is that lions are just randomly attacking people. And there's a specific story where someone breaks a promise and someone sees the person who breaks their word get attacked by a lion, but then the lion kills him but won't eat him because it's making it very clear it's not that the lion is hungry. The lion is like a force of God's judgment. So the image of the fighting of the lion, but is it related to God's judgment? But then at the same time, it's Samson is embodied receives God's spirit and is able to kill this thing easily as we kill a goat. But as that's occurring as well, this is in an area like Samson operates a lot in Judean territory. So, and the symbol of Judah is a lion. And I think that there's something in that, but we have to continue on in order for it to be understood. So can we understand? Okay. What section are we at now?
8.
Are we at 8? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's go down to 14. 8 to 14. Can someone read? I have to step away for half a second.
Do you want to do it or me? I don't care either way.
Okay, I'll read it. After some days, he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees in the body of the lion, and honey. He scraped it out with his hands and went on, eating as he went. And he came to his father and mother and gave some to them, and they ate. But he did not tell them that he had scraped the honey from the carcass of the lion. His father went down to the woman, and Samson prepared a feast there. For so the young men used to do. As soon as the people saw him, they brought 30 companions to be with him. And Samson said to them, "Let me now put a riddle to you. If you can tell me what it is within the 7 days of the feast and find it out, then I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes. But if you cannot tell me what it is, then you shall give me 30 linen garments and 30 changes of clothes." And they said to him, "Put your riddle that we may hear it." And he said to them, "Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. And in 3 days, they could not solve the riddle."
Okay, good. Chezi, if you're still there, I think the word for, I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember. Ra is like bad, and Mara is bitter. Is Chezi, is Mara and Ra, do those come from the same Hebrew
Sorry.
Hebrew root? If he's there. I understand this very symbolically, this little bit, where part of this story is that the sweetness, the goodness comes out of Samson's death. As much as we like remember Samson for all of his heroic bits, where this is actually leading is his most heroic bit, the biggest sweetness comes out of his death. Oh, Chezi says correct. Wonderful. Okay, yeah. So this good in your eyes, that's tov, and the opposite of tov is ra. So tov is good or pleasing. Ra, mara. So I wonder about this sweetness coming out of the honey, the good coming out of the lion, out of the corpse. Which again, this is a symbol of Judah, right? Judah's corpse, out of it comes something sweet. Am I going too far? Yeah.
Between him and Hercules, but that also stretched the difference. That's really good. That's a good point.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know, there's just so much here that I find intriguing. Oh, Michael's here. What up?
Hello,
I've
Mikhail.
been listening along, but I had a long drive, so.
That's fine. It's fine.
Nice.
You know what?
Well,
you know what would give you a shorter drive is a smaller state. You get yourself a more reasonably sized state, and your drive won't have to be as far.
It's true. It's true.
Sorry. Did you have something to add, Michael?
I missed. I mean, I was a little spaced out at the beginning. I just thought it was very interesting to point out that sometimes a powerful libidinous urge can be an act of God.
Yes. I like how you couldn't even keep it together until the end of that. A powerful libidinous urge is an act of God.
Sometimes, not always, but I don't know.
I'm going to include this in my memoirs. Is like one of my worst relationships that led me in like a good place, which is just like, for he did not know that it was from the Lord.
Yeah.
Powerful libidinous urge. That is great.
Well, I mean that, and kind of all these other details. Are talking about how like, there's all these kind of like contradictory things of like, why does Samson like break all the rules and stuff like that? And I think there's always this thing where I don't know. It's kind of the way like prophets operate, where like they're dressed in a way that doesn't garner them respect, and it's almost like a challenge of like, are you going to disregard what this person says because of the way they appear or because of some technical thing they do when they're clearly speaking the truth or they're revealing truth? It's like a challenge to our assumptions about the way God works and how he operates. Because anytime we say God, like what I love it when people say like God is a God of order, and like that, but then they're always framing that in the context of like how much order they can understand, which may be a very simple type of order, where so.
Right. Well, and I think there's characters like Hosea, which play the part of God.
Yeah.
And so Hosea married to Gomer is God, like in covenant with the unfaithful woman. But here Samson is not the embodiment of God. Samson is the embodiment of the nation.
Yeah.
And so just as the people will go after what is right in their own eyes to their own destruction. And the reiteration of you just get what you deserve happens in this story as well. We'll get there if we ever do. You get what you deserve. But also with him, it's this the way he's enslaved multiple times in chains, I think is supposed to represent Israel enslaved. But there's also this idea of Israel as the suffering servant, that in the end it is accomplished not by their success, but by their downfall. It's going to be Samson's destruction, not out of his strength, but out of his corpse comes the sweetness. Yeah. Shall we continue on, my friends?
Well, hold on. There's some stuff. Let's see. First of all, I find the riddle extremely interesting. I don't know if you're supposed to. Are you supposed to do like symbolism and stuff like that? Like where you take what honey could symbolize and try to apply it that way? Would that be wrong to do in things like this?
I find it difficult not to do because the language describing Israel is the language describing Samson. Both of them doing what's right in their own eyes, both of them saying you get what you deserve. And that
So is honey, because I've kind of wondered that about honey before, what it would represent, because it seems like certain things in the Bible, you can never. So first of all, I should say I don't think you can like pin symbolism down and say that it means this and only this, but there's certain things where they seem to kind of symbolize different things. Like oil is sometimes I think kind of like glory because it makes your face shine and things like that, and wine is kind of like symbolic of rejoicing or pleasure a lot of times. And so I didn't know what honey would necessarily be. It it doesn't spoil. It kind of has a golden color. I've always kind of wondered that.
But it's also a symbol of the blessing of being in the land. That it's the land that honey. God promises them is one of flowing with milk and honey.
Yeah, that's good.
I wonder about that too, because
the sweetness and fatness.
Yeah, maybe I am completely wrong, but as best I know, beehives aren't usually in corpses. So it seems to be like almost like a miraculous sweetness.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know, because they do, it's like they build them in trees. The ones we have, it's like if you build a box, they'll like go in there. It seems like, I don't know if that's I don't know. It seems like they just need a space to go into, that they don't really build their own space, but then they fill the space.
Yeah,
which is like that's like a symbol of femininity, I think.
They're also matriarchal. They have a queen.
Yeah.
There was definitely.
Sorry, go ahead. No.
Just Cassandra's asking this question about Samson as an example of an anti-hero. It's not merely an anti-hero. It is I said this before, you're supposed to view him as a tragic hero. Samson is a tragic character, and we're supposed to feel good about his death to some extent, and we're supposed to relate to him. We have all, Cassandra, I hope you are not like me and and that you aren't looking back the way that Sandy and I and Jason all agreed that we could look at past relationships and go, if the eyes are exposing the soul, if the wanting, if the what I'm sending out of my eyes is showing what my heart is like, what is my heart like that this is what happened to me?
Well, there's another phrase too that probably, I don't know if there'll be much to comment on, but it said like he threw something about him throwing a party and said for men used to do that in those days.
Yes. Well, that's also
what
he throws a kegger. He's a Nazarite throwing a kegger.
yeah.
What are you doing?
That's a good
buddy?
point.
He's a Nazarite throwing a kegger, doing a riddle about touching a dead body. Great.
Out of the eater came something to eat.
Yeah. Nowhere meeting your requirements. Oh, and Hezi is quite right. Wedding party. There is something there as well, Jason.
Okay,
like the idea.
say more.
I think he
'Cause that
means
was-
like the
Go-
wedding is
go
like
ahead.
the biggest party. It's the party everyone's invited to.
Okay, the last thing too, and there's another thing. I'm sure it'll come up again, but this is something I wanted to bring up and see if you had any thoughts on it before we go further in the text. But it seems to be like the certain numbers get repeated with Samson as well, like the number 3 or 30 and things like that. Because I know, because in this first riddle, then they go into the exchanges of clothing, 30 something of clothing, this or that. So I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that, or if you want to hold off on them for now, so we go further.
I think I need to process it more.
Okay,
because
right.
he's covered in hair, and the garments is this. I don't know, man.
I don't know what to make of it either. I just know it seems like I feel like there's later on in the text too, like it'll say 3,000 or something like that, like almost like the number 3 keeps getting repeated.
Oh yeah. The Philistines he kills. Okay, yeah. Keep reading. Actually, Sandy, you read.
She read last time, but we can make her read again.
Oh, okay, fine. Michael, you read then. Can you see this?
Which verse?
On the 4th day, I just want to say, I want to hear you say, if you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle. I just want you to, as long as you get to there, I'm happy.
Okay. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, "Entice your husband to tell us what the riddle is, lest we burn you and your father's house with fire. Have you invited us here to impoverish us?" And Samson's wife wept over him and said, "You only hate me. You do not love me. You have put a riddle to my people, and you have not told me what it is." And he said to her, "Behold, I have not told my father nor my mother, and shall I tell you?" She wept before him the 7 days that their feast lasted, and on the 7th day he told her, because she pressed him hard. Then she told the riddle to her people. And the men of the city said to him on the 7th day, before the sun went down, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" And he said to them, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have found out my riddle."
I mean, come on. The burning with fire, the amount of things that get burnt with fire, it's very interesting. She is threatened to be burnt with fire. I believe there is a woman who is killed, burnt with fire. And then in retaliation, that's when Samson does the fire foxes, the foxes with the torches between them to burn. Like there's the image of the burning up and the threatening of the burning up. And when he breaks the ropes around him, it says the ropes became like flax when they are hit with fire. There's supposed to be some kind of connection to the punishments here with the judgment of God. That's all I got, though. Besides that, I think that's a sexual innuendo, right? To plow with my heifer.
Yeah, that's almost like to say, is that like happening, like, in that moment then, which is kind of like showing like how wild is this wedding feast that like, the boundary, like, there's like one very important boundary with, everybody can party, but there's like the boundary is that the husband and the wife are, it's their moment or whatever. And so it's like this happening like actively during this time, like, I mean, that's the only way it kind of seems to make sense of like, when are they finding out the answer from her, like.
Right. Cassandra is also saying women are Samson's kryptonite. We talked before about the image of uncontrollable lust is the image of a donkey in heat, a she donkey in heat that it like possesses. My wife has seen barnyard animals mating, and they are aggressive. It's like something takes hold of them. It's
You know
not
what?
a
I do want to say, I want to take back. So, obviously, it came and said a libidinous urge, which I'm sure is, a strong component of the thing. But Samson's going and telling his parents that he wants this woman to be his wife. Like, he can just, if he's just going to do whatever he wants, like he does most of the time, and there's all prostitutes and everything all over. Like, he doesn't need to do that to take care of his libidinous urge. But that almost is kind of like, it's not like the the image of like Hosea marrying a prostitute per se, but it's kind of like it's like a Romeo and Juliet thing. It's like enemies, and it's a marriage, and
but it to me it's not just that. It's not like Romeo and Juliet where it's like against the parents' wishes and everything. To me, it's like there's
it's
even
like a
this
one-sided version of it though.
right.
You know what I mean? It's like he sees her in that way, and like clearly it's like, I don't know, to me he's I don't think he's laughing when he's saying, if you had not plowed with my heifer. Like I think that's like, it's like, he's seeing her with the way that like, maybe like I would say with the way that God sees us when he's comparing us to this unfaithful woman.
Yeah,
he's not seeing the actions. He's seeing like who the person could be.
I think you're absolutely right, Michael, because he returns to her after all these events where there's going to be a massacre. He comes back for her. He wants, like, there's actually, like, I think it's worse than people understand as just a libidinous urge, because it's not like she's some, do you know the term shiksa? She's not just some shiksa. A shiksa is like a non-Jewish woman that, like, it becomes this stereotype that, like, oh, you can date a couple of shiksas when you're in high school, but when you actually want to get married, you don't marry a shiksa. That's not what you do, right? If you're going to marry her, she has to convert. If you're going to, like, if you actually want to build a life with this person, to actually, like, it's not just that he wants to sleep with her. He wants this to be the person that he spends his life with. Get me her, right? It's not, I mean, yes, he's got a sexual issue where he also sleeps around, but it's the depth of how bad it is not just that he falls in love with this girl, but he makes falling, like, we have sympathy for people falling in love with a girl or a guy who's bad news, but it's, yes, but you don't marry this person. You got to put up the barriers and keep yourself from them.
It also reminds me of, like, so like foreshadowing or whatever, like Solomon, because like I see, like, with Solomon, my whole thing with Solomon is, like, if you read the advice that he's giving to his son in the book of Proverbs that he's not following, he understands it, but he's not following it because he understands that his role as king, has basically forced him into a very narrow way of life. He's the king. He can't just, marry his sweetheart and whatever. And so he's like bringing in all these foreign wives, which is like this thing of political alliance, and that's kind of like the more practical reason of it. But then, he writes Song of Solomon, which is this, kind of, it's an eschatological vision of love and marriage, and like in God marrying the land and all this kind of thing. But it's almost like Solomon was seeing that, like, one day these Gentile nations, these Gentile wives would be like suitable, but it was his downfall because he wasn't really the guy that should have married them, essentially, because they're
Well, it's also that in Deuteronomy it specifically warns against going back to Egypt. It warned, and Samson says, look out for the alliances that people are going to make through, like, these are going to be mad. These are going to be bad. So it's not. It seems like a good political move, but the good political move sometimes is morally repugnant.
Yeah, that's really interesting. He says, don't go back to Egypt. And you mentioned before how Samson kind of symbolizes the nation. But you have, I mean, it would be getting ahead of ourselves here, but you have him go blind in this story, which is the same as Zedekiah going blind and then being carried away captive in fetters. But Solomon takes an Egyptian wife, right? But then in Jeremiah, you read how the whole nation of Israel goes back to Egypt before Babylon carries them away captive, before the lion, because God tells him the lion has come up from the thicket, like describing Babylon, and he's coming to destroy you. So you have like all this symbolism working together, but it's really interesting. And then when Babylon comes, it's weird because you see like almost the story of Samson played out in the broader book of Kings. And if you just take all the kings and keep them as like one and just say that's the king or something, you can kind of see it. Or just say that's Samson or something. That's the judge of the land. You kind of see it happen because Hezekiah, I think he kind of he lets Babylon in and like opens up the treasuries and shows him all the treasure, kind of like Samson lets Delilah in and tells him all his heart, and then he gets his eyes plucked out. And Hezekiah does that with Babylon, and then Babylon comes later and like one of his sons, he plucks his son's eyes out or something like that.
Yeah.
I do ask. So an interesting thing. I listened to this long commentary study series on First Kings and about Solomon, and I can't remember exactly where it is. It was somewhere in there in the indication, because I think his Egyptian wife, that's like his first one. I think she's the mother of Rehoboam. Like there's some indication in Solomon or Rehoboam's story or whatever that like she becomes a follower of the God of Israel, that she's abandoned her paganness, but the later wives, are the ones that draw Solomon away. So almost in a sense of like he was able to do it with like one, and like he thought he could do it with others, and he didn't.
Right. We all know people who got into missionary dating relationships, right? Y'all are evangelicals. You went to youth group.
Get her for me. For the Lord seeking an occasion.
For this goth is pleasing in my sight.
The Lord seeks an occasion to destroy.
No, and Hezi is quite right. Is that Hezi is bringing forward this idea of Egypt will be called my people. So there's this idea that foreigner can come in, but how do they come in? Right. And they come in to such an extent that they are no longer considered to be foreign. Right. Someone like Ruth. Right. Yeah. The pulling in from the people around them. But that could take place. And furthermore, this is actually, again, the image that I see about Israel's failure actually being God using Israel's failure to get them in. Is God in, I think, Ezekiel 16, the unfaithful bride is basically, you could read it as the book of Judges. And God says that he's going to use their unfaithfulness to bring these people that are considered the worst of the worst into God's family. I'm going to take Samaria and I'm going to take Sodom and I'm going to turn them into your sisters. I'm going to bring them in as though they're all good.
Yeah.
I'm going to forgive them, because if I can forgive you, I can forgive even them.
Yeah.
Right.
Romans 11 too. I think Paul's talking about something similar in there, that God will have mercy on all. Yeah. Ezekiel 16. I think it's one of the best chapters in all the Bible, man. So
it is. And I honestly think that we should, once we finish Judges, I think you could read Ezekiel 16 as the book of Judges.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So we'll get there. But Michael, please finish the chapter.
Okay. And the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him, and he went down to Ashkelon and struck down 30 men of the town and took their spoil and gave the garments to those who had told the riddle. In hot anger, he went back to his father's house, and Samson's wife was given to his companion, who had been his best man.
Oh, snap.
Ouch.
It's very dramatic. That's what best mans are for, by the way. Your best man was who marries your wife if you get out of Dodge.
Really?
Yeah, that's where the tradition of the best man is. He defends the groom in case someone else comes. And if the groom is unwilling to take on his responsibilities,
the best man
the
does.
Best man. Yeah.
That's insane. How can you trust your best man? Because
Like,
you know
look,
he's secretly wanting to steal your girl. That's so weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. My initial thought in reading that was, it reminds me of Saul giving away his daughter Michael that's married to David when David leaves or whatever.
Mhm.
And my thought was like, oh, does this mean like? So I don't know. I guess my thought was like, does this mean that was showing like Saul acting like a Philistine in that behavior? Because I mean, this isn't like, because I mean, in the Israelite thing, so this is his companion who's his best man, and I guess Samson didn't have any brothers or whatever. Okay, those saying it's bad, but like there's the Levirate marriage, but that's like only if the brother dies.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if that was supposed to be your best man. Like, because the best man tradition I was referring to, I know, is in European stuff. I don't know if it's ancient biblical, but it would make sense if you, Kezi, in Jewish marriage, do you got a best man? Is that a thing? I'm assuming they stay out of the chuppah, but either way,
What's the hoopah?
it's like a marital tent.
Okay.
I wonder what the translation is that says best man. Like, is that like a literal? Like, does that mean? Is that like best man, like as in the wedding party, or is that like of all of Samson's mans, whatever that means, he was the best one?
Right. Well, and it seems to be a person of the land. This is Jason. If you've never seen it, this is a chuppah.
Okay. Gotcha. A person of the land. That seems pretty vague.
Yeah. Not a best man. You have a guardian and chuppah witness. But you're not supposed. It's interesting. The bride and groom have to be under the chuppah themselves, like alone. They must alone. You got to be apart from your family. You leave your father and mother to become one flesh. They are with you all day. That's interesting. I think we're supposed to read a little bit of the next chapter because I think it's related to this. Unless you think we've gone too far.
We've gone too far. No. Sounds good. Do you want me to read or someone else? Or
Sure. Yeah. Let's.
Are we going to keep making
Michael? Yeah. Because I think this is all related to his marital thing. So now we're cooking with gas. So let's keep going. Go ahead. Oh, I need to share this. Sorry.
All right. After some days, at the time of the wheat harvest, Samson went to visit his wife with a young goat, and I will go
with
into my
a
wife
what?
I know, I got that too. That fragile little thing. I'm surprised he got it there in one piece.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
and he said, I will go into my wife in the chamber. But her father would not allow him to go in. And her father said, I really thought that you utterly hated her. So I gave her to your companion. Is not her younger sister more beautiful than she? Please take her instead. And Samson said to him, This time I shall be innocent in regard to the Philistines when I do them harm. So Samson went and caught 300 foxes and took torches, and he turned them tail to tail and put a torch between each pair. A pair of tails. And when he had set fire to the torches, he let the foxes go into the standing grain of the Philistines and set fire to the stacked grain and the standing grain, as well as the olive orchards. Then the Philistines said, Who has done this? And they said, Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he has taken his wife and given her to his companion. And the Philistines came up and burned her and her father with fire. And Samson said to them, If this is what you do, I swear I will be avenged on you, and after that I will quit. And he struck them hip and thigh with a great blow, and he went down and stayed in the cleft of the rock at Etam.
So it's the connection of the fire. You see that, the burning with fire, and then she and her father get burnt with fire. Some kind of irony going on there, and some kind of a connection to Jacob, Israel, where she's got a prettier younger sister, right? Like something's happening there. And it may just be emphasizing these elements to see them as connected, to see him connected to the nation as a whole.
So I guess we could say that this kind of confirms Saul was acting like a Philistine when he gave David's wife away, when he regifted her.
Oh yeah, that story. Oh yeah.
Well, there's the
Any
three
other
again.
thoughts? I think that's good.
300 foxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I mean, it's such a strange story. That's what I mean. The whole thing with Samson just feels like a fairy tale. Because it's like you could just sit here and speculate, like, why. One time there was this girl I met a long time ago, and she said she like, half the time when she'd read the Bible, she thought it was kind of more interesting to think about what God didn't say, like kind of like the blank space in the negative space in artwork or something. Because it's like what he didn't say. Like he said foxes, it says foxes. Like why out of all the things, of all the creatures, is it? Because foxes don't come up often in the Bible, not a whole lot. I mean, they're here and there.
Right.
It's interesting. Just all that stuff interests me so much. And then it's weird that as well as the olive orchards is thrown in there, but like nothing about the vineyard anymore is even mentioned. So I don't know if there's something to that. But it's like the grain. It's like the grain and the olive, but not the wine.
It's interesting too because
the time of year.
Yeah. That's. I mean that. Yeah, that could be that. I mean, that could just very well be the answer, I guess. Or I don't know. It's just the time of year.
There's also, I think, some kind of an image where, there's some interesting questions being asked in all this. I always wonder about amount of time. So I don't think this is something you do in an afternoon. I think this is like, you know what I mean? Like, are we supposed to take this? Then he just, we all have come across 300 foxes.
How do you hide that for that amount of time? What are you doing with all these foxes, Samson? Oh, nothing.
Well, the image to me is that he's walking around. He goes to a field. Foxes are one of those animals that are known pests, right? There's even not proverb from Song of Solomon. Catch for us the little foxes, right? The critters that get into the stuff, right? So these are issues for the fields already. So he's around the fields. He catches the foxes, puts a torch between them, burns it. And he does this over. And like, to me, he's a serial arsonist. This is not like one massive event.
Gotcha. I see what
this
you're saying.
Is an over and over and over again thing.
Yeah, and if that's the case, Elton, too, like why isn't the olive, like the I mean, sorry,
Yeah.
the grapes harmed and stuff. I don't know. It's really interesting. And Box is also what I think it says. It might be Nehemiah they're mentioned as well, where it talks about him, like, but they're like, I think they're described as like being able to get through the holes in the walls, like in the cracks in the walls. Like you try to seal up your fence, so to speak, your hedge, so nothing can get through, and they're good at like getting through the hedges and I guess getting the chickens or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they're crafty.
Yeah.
Crafty fox. Yeah.
300.
Let's keep going. Keep going.
Keep going.
We're gonna hit another 3. Sandy, you have been quiet for a while, deep in prayerful meditation this whole time, not distracted at all. Then the Philistines.
I'm resisting saying, I see sarcasm is one of your love languages. Except I didn't really resist saying it.
Yeah.
Then the Philistines came up and encamped in Judah and made a raid on Lehi. And the men of Judah said, why have you come up against us? They said, we have come up to bind Samson, to do to him as he did to us. Then 3,000 men of Judah went down to the cleft of the rock of Etam and said to Samson, do you not know that the Philistines are rulers over us? What then is this that you have done to us? And he said to them, as they did to me, so I have done to them. And they said to him, we have come down to bind you, that we may give you into the hands of the Philistines. And Samson said to them, swear to me that you will not attack me yourselves. They said to him, no, we will only bind you and give you into their hands. We will surely not kill you. So they bound him with 2 new ropes and brought him up from the rock.
So that's an imagery of being taken off into slavery, right? He'll be brought and he'll be turned into an animal at a mill. So I think you are supposed to see him as, again, if you're seeing him as Israel, what happens to Israel? Israel goes off into slavery, but is not killed. So that's part of it. Where was the reference? You read something.
Yes.
You just read it. I missed it.
You will not attack me yourselves, or before that?
No, I missed it. But there you got a 3,000. Jason and his obsession with the number 3.
Yeah, my obsession. I didn't write this.
Connecting them with red yarn. This is the verse I was looking for. As they did to me, so I have done to them. So I said that I believed the beginning of the book, the story of Adonai Bezek. He gets his thumbs and big toes cut off, and he said, "This is just what I did. This is what I did. This is justice. Wow. As they did to me, so have I done to them." And then the end of the book. So this is, to me, this line is connecting this with Adonai Bezek, which will connect to the end of the book, the dismemberment of the concubine.
So how then do you relate it back to 10, where that's the answer of the Philistines to the Israelites? We have come to bind Samson, to do to him as he did to us. Because I noticed the parallel answers there.
Yes. Is we are witnessing Israel being as bad as the nations that they came to dispossess. And so they're as bad as the nations that they came to dispossess. They will now suffer the fate of them. They will suffer the fate that they, like, you've come to bring justice, but you were unjust. So now the punishment comes to you as well. Now everyone is getting what they deserve. And as a result, in the end, the redemption that God promises for Israel will now be a redemption for the whole world, for all the nations. This is for the Goyim. This is how the Goyim get in.
Okay, weird question. And you're not just saying that from a Christian framework.
No, it's the image of how does the Torah get to Babylon? The Torah was supposed to get to Babylon because they were a city on a hill, a place that would attract all other nations, which we see happen for 20 minutes with Samson, with what's his name? Shlomo, with Solomon, that they would actually come there and say, tell us about your God, tell us all about it. But they fail so quickly, right? They fail within 40 years. So how does the Torah get to Babylon? It gets there through exile. That's how the Torah gets to Babylon.
I was just curious because even as we started to read this, I was thinking about Israel being a nation of priests, and I keep thinking I mean, you cannot be a priest separate from the people. So if they're going to be a nation of priests, they are in relationship to the people to whom they are priests.
That's right. That's right. And so in my view, Israel is not a failure, quote unquote, a failure. It's that God incorporates their failure as part of them being priests. Part of the image, like if they're a representation of God, then their failure is not, oh, these ridiculous Jews failing where no one else would fail. It's no, their failure is an illustration of what we are like. This is like, I am not Jewish.
Ask you.
Yeah.
So they are representing God to the people and the people to God.
That's right. That's right. And so human beings are tragic. And so Israel is tragic. And so the embodiment of Israel is a tragic figure like Samson. Right? God has to use, if God cannot incorporate our sin, our weakness into his plan, there will be no sweetness. It must come out of our corpse, because otherwise there will be no sweetness. That it must be incorporated. Yeah.
But this goes back to the whole thing Jacob would say, in terms of the perspective on good and evil. Oh, hello, Jacob. Where he's like, it's not that God made good and evil, but God made good and he made evil for the good. And I missed what he said. I was so sorry.
No. I think these are issues that we've talked about before. And to me, God shows his absolute control of the situation in that he can use even our wandering away as a way of actually spreading the good news. And that doesn't mean that our stuff isn't real death and doesn't, and like, oh, that's not a big deal. It is a big deal. But all the same, God does not give up on his ability to be in control.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because, it's kind of this thing of like this, like this saying, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, and this kind of like thing of, it keeps escalating. It was interesting because I was just looking at Exodus 22 today, where it's talking about theft and if somebody steals, if you steal somebody's animal and you kill it and eat it, you're supposed to pay back 5 times, and then it's like, oh, if they get the animal back, you're still supposed to pay back twice. And I think it's this thing of like the justice, unless if the justice restored to the person wronged is exponentially greater than the harm suffered, we always feel like we were still wronged or whatever. And so it's like when you try to do an eye for an eye, which it says that, but like you always end up with these things. It always ends up escalating. It doesn't.
Right.
Nobody ever says, "Yeah, that's fair." Oh, you burned down my family, and then I burned down your friends, and so that's even. It's like, unless if the person forgiving or paying back goes above and beyond,
Right.
That's like, it takes that drastic thing for people to see, oh, like I can't complain about what happened to me because my blessings are so much greater.
Right. Jacob, you clearly had some sort of opinion you wanted to share.
Yeah, my comments from Twitter didn't show up in the chat here. I'm surprised.
I showed it for a second. This one.
Oh, okay. So why don't I see it here? Anyway, yeah. So like, it amazes me that like, and this is Father Stephen's actual point in his book, Paul of Tarsus, is there is a Christian idea that Christianity came up with these completely new ideas, right? That Jews never understood, yet somehow were in the Bible, our Bible, but we didn't understand them. And like, it's such a weird self-contradictory narrative. I don't know how Christians maintain it.
Oh, I know how. Yeah, you don't read the Old Testament. If you
Well, let people learn Hebrew. Don't read the
No. But like, what do you believe? Like, if the teachings of Paul and Jesus do not rely on things that can be understood from the Old Testament, then they're false teachings, right? And my assumption had always been that Christians teach something which is completely foreign to, which is actually like Martin Luther's idea after he read the Old Testament, right? Was there's the Old Testament, and here's Paul and Jesus like throwing all of that away. Now that makes sense. But like the idea that, and I mean, I get this. I read Douglas Wilson's book on the Jews, and without actually having looked into Judaism at all, he assumes and asserts that we as Jews reject Old Testament teachings, right? And many Christians will make this assertion, which I kind of understand they assume must be true, right? Because how could it be that we actually believe in the things that our own Bible says and still disagree with Christians if you believe in the things that our Bible says?
Right. And that's the point that I'm trying to make overall, is this idea that the God who none of these things, God is never like, oh, I didn't think that this could happen, right? He's not surprised. He doesn't go, this is my plan for the world. It's called Israel, and then he goes, oh, that didn't work. I never realized that wouldn't work. If you read in Deuteronomy, Moses tells the people, look, you're not going to do it. There's no way you're going to be obedient with it. And they say, no. We want this covenant to be part of it. And it's the same thing at the end of Joshua. Joshua says, you're never going to be able to do this. And they say, no, we accept this relationship.
It's the same thing in Romans 10. The promises of God are irrevocable. Yet Christians live in this world where they have been revoked.
I was thinking about this last week, David, and I'm curious because I visual thinker again. I was thinking, what would have happened? What happens if they come and you simply present only the part that is considered New Testament? The story makes no sense.
Right.
I have said a number of times recently, I've learned more about what Christianity is talking about through listening to Jewish people in the last year and a half. And that's one of the things that I've always anticipated.
Yeah. Well, and that was part of the some of the conversations that I think is really important to have. I'm digging very deep into Tractate Yoma, which is just on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Atonement. Like if you're trying to get into Jewish writings, it's a big chunk. But there's a lot of conversations about atonement that Christians are debating and having all these conversations about, and they don't know the major ritual of atonement in Scripture. They don't know what the ritual looks like, how it's performed, and I was kind of having a conversation with Hezi about it yesterday, where I was getting into some of these images, because there are things that the New Testament is interested in that the church now doesn't seem to have interest in. That being said, Jacob, I appreciate your perspective, and that's fine. But Jacob, look, we're trying to get through this passage of Scripture, okay? And so we're not going to let you derail us.
You could ask him to read. He's hanging out here and hasn't read yet.
Your own pet projects, derailing us, not focusing on what the passage of Scripture actually says.
Yeah, because I derailed you.
You showed up to play one of your greatest hits. All right.
It was a thousand trinities of men from Judah. Is that right?
It's a good hit. I think he should keep playing it.
Yeah.
Play that greatest hit on repeat.
Read verse 12.
Me?
Yes.
Where's the Hebrew?
Oh, it's like a punishment.
And they said to him, "We have come down to bind you, that we may give you into the hands of the Philistines." And Samson said to them, "Swear to me that you will not attack me yourselves."
Oh, sorry. Actually, it was supposed to be 14. I'm sorry. But please say jackass and not donkey, okay?
I will say chamor. I'm guessing that's the word.
Yeah.
When he came to Lehi, the Philistines came shouting to him. Then the Spirit of the Lord, capital S, because obviously, rushed upon him, and the ropes that were on his arms became as flax that has caught fire, and his bonds melted off his hands. I love how Christian translations lie to you with capitalization. I just
what does it say then? The breath of, is that like the breath of God?
It's just not capitalized. It's
there's no capitalization in Hebrew, so there's no Trinity in the Hebrew. But every single Christian translation uses capitalization in order to teach how you understand things, so that you see the Trinity in the Hebrew.
I didn't even. Mine didn't even go there. That makes sense, though. I was thinking more. So it would basically say the ruach, right, of Hashem.
Yeah,
I'm guessing. I mean, what you really should do is read this in the Hebrew.
The wind, spirit, breath. Well, guess what? We're doing it in English, all right? And this is just like reading Jewish sources, where he cannot help but give so much interpretation on top of the text. Please, Jacob, just the text.
Yeah, sola scriptura. That actually happens ever.
Oh. Just the text, please. Go ahead. Also, I'm sorry, but the periods are also additions in English.
They are.
It's just the conjunction vav. It's the letter V. That's and then. That's how every sentence begins in Hebrew.
So I have explained why all the sentences begin with "and," right?
I don't, Jacob. Look, some other time. Let's get through this chapter, please.
Fine.
Do I have to ask someone else to read? Go.
I'm very curious now, to be honest. Okay.
So there's a Hebrew. There's a Hebrew conjugation.
The vav, yeah.
Starts with a vav, and so it's a way of telling a story. And so it's part of the Hebrew, and so it gets translated into ands. But it's when you're telling the story, there's lots of ands in Hebrew when you tell a story.
Yeah. It's links. And when those, and for a larger space, it looks like essentially like the Hebrew has a tab, like it's much further forward, and so we know it's a new idea.
Yeah.
That's what, how even some of the chapters get their ideas of chapters behind. So again, the fire comes from the foxes, the fire that kills the woman and her father. It says that after this, his arms, the ropes become as flax when they have caught fire. And he found a fresh jaw. I'm going to read if you won't read, Jacob. And he found a fresh jawbone of a jackass and put out his hand and took it. And with it, he struck 1,000 men. And Samson said, with the jawbone of a jackass, heaps upon heaps. With the jawbone of a jackass, heaps upon, have I struck down 1,000 men. And as soon as he had finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone out of his hand, and that place is called Ramath Lehi, which means hill of the jawbone. And he was very thirsty, and he called upon Hashem and said, you have granted this great salvation by the hand of your servant, and shall I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised? And God split open the hollow place that is at Lehi, and water came out from it. And when he drank, his spirit returned, and he revived. Therefore, the name is called En Hakor. It is in Lehi to this day. And he judged Israel in the days of the Philistines 20 years.
Right. So the word lechi actually means jaw, right? Or jawbone, right? Yeah. And when I first read this in English, I could not understand it at all. And then I switched into the Hebrew, and it's all puns. It's all filled tons with puns, and it's just a funny.
Yeah. It's look at how clever we are. It's pardon the pun is every sentence in the Hebrew.
If it's puns, why is it a jawbone?
Lechi. If you go earlier, you'll see he's fighting with the Lehites, right?
Yeah.
So it's explaining their name as the Lehites as lechi of a chamor, of a jackass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's making fun of them and who they are.
It's the people who get hammered get killed when someone hits them in the head with a ball peen hammer. There's fun being played there. Again, the idea that Israel is the are you leaving, Jason, or you have a thought?
Oh, sorry, my brother-in-law's outside. I might have to go for a second.
Okay, no problem. Again, the image that Samson is supposed to be Israel, that when he's done, he's calling out for water, the splitting of and it comes out from the splitting of the rock, as Israel was sustained by God. The other interesting thing is that his parents are like, you got involved in this because you married into the uncircumcised, and he complains to God, oh, now I'm going to fall into the hands of the uncircumcised. It's like this again, God does rescue him, but he doesn't deserve this. Is very Dayenu, you don't deserve to be rescued out of this. God would have been just even if he didn't rescue out of this, because this is how you got into the problem. But God still does give them water.
I'm going to have to leave in like 5 minutes. So.
That's fine. I think we're done in 5 minutes. Cassandra is saying, is Samson a dramedy? There is a lot of humor, but I would say it's more a tragedy than anything else.
I actually think it's more of a comedy. I think it's a parody. I think you can call it a parody.
I mean, it ends with his death in a really, like, it's a semi-heroic death, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think it's meant. I don't think you're supposed to read it and think of this as a historical tale. And
Okay.
that's what a lot of people, when they're reading English in English, because it's prose in English, think of it, right? So like Paul Revere was an actual person, right?
Right.
But when you read a poem about the writing of Paul Revere, you don't actually sit there and go, well, was there really one light by, like, you don't care if that was the exact situation.
So
Okay.
what is the purpose of a parody in this?
Nobody thinks the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere is a part of a holy tradition, though.
But it is part of a holy tradition. What are you talking about? It is part of who we are as Americans. And that's that's what the Book of Judges is. It is a part of our family history as Jews.
Yeah, but it being poetic or written in a style doesn't mean it can't also be factually true. I mean,
I didn't say it wasn't. That's why I used the Paul Revere example. Paul Revere was an actual person, right?
Yes.
And there actually was a war between the British and the Americans.
Yes, but the poem has factual mistakes in it.
The poem has points which have nothing, which were never meant to be literally like considered to be the facts of the situation.
Dramatic embellishment.
Yeah.
I think specifically for Samson, the use of his character is his connection with the idea of justice, the notion that his eyes getting ripped out. She is good for me in my eyes. And then after this, the sentence repeated over and over again to illustrate the tragedy of judges is the tov in your eyes. This to me is, I think it is a tragedy because you are supposed to, in the classical sense, the tragic hero has the tragic flaw that when their downfall occurs, you are supposed to say, that is what you deserve, though. And so the tragedy of judges is that you are supposed to say, of the nation that you know will go into exile, this is horrible, this is terrible, that is what you deserve, though.
Right, but there is also at least in Judaism, there is this idea that like he marries a Gentile in order to like for dramatic effect because he is playing a role, right?
Yes, but he doesn't do it. He doesn't say to God, "Please, God, don't make me do this horrible thing." Right? Because Isaiah
God gave him a strong libidinal urge.
Yes, because Isaiah is asked by God to do things and he says, please don't. And Ezekiel says, please don't make me eat over the burning poop or over the human excrement. And God makes a concession. And again, with Gomer as well, like there are mournful things that God demands of the prophets. Samson isn't mourning. So Samson wants this girl. He's not going, oh God, what a difficult thing you laid on my heart to marry this hot goth girl who will utterly who will light my house on fire. He falls in love with the crazy woman. First chance he gets, he'll marry another one. He'll go after her again and again until she lights his house on fire. That's the kind of woman he wants until he learns his lesson because he's naked on his front yard. Am I wrong?
I am going to be late for work, so have fun, guys.
Okay.
It was nice talking to you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Jacob. Sandy, do you have anything else to say?
The phrase "hot goth girls" is not going to soon leave my mind.
It's an internet meme. It's just like that, and I bring it up because of the Shiksa thing too. You know what you're getting yourself into, right? And I am overly putting my own life into it, and I am putting your life into it, and I'm sure I'm putting Michael's life into it too. Those aspects of our lives where we got what we deserved based on what our hearts were leading us to, like the messed up thing that we wanted that would utterly destroy us, those parts of our lives are a tragedy.
I actually didn't really date ever. So,
but you got dramatically bad exes.
one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the whole beware of cute Jewish guys thing. Sure.
Oh, that's right. You are the Shiksa. I forgot. Sorry.
See, I just sat there letting you tell your story. And
Yeah. For a period of time, I was biblically kosher for a very long time, and I was involved in a whole bunch of messianic stuff. So I wore tzitzit and all kinds of stuff. And my friend Graham was like, "Do you still eat kosher?" And I said to him, "No, I have that Shiksa wife." And it just made him laugh because he's like, "You are also a Gentile." I'm like, I know I am. But there was a period of time where I was a wannabe.
A wannabe.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the core belief, Anyone who isn't wants to be.
Yeah. But you think that you're so wise. But remember, Solomon and all his wisdom, his Shiksa wives pulled him away. He was the wisest man in the world, and even him could not keep it together with these Shiksas. Yeah, and those part again. I'm joking. I'm making all these jokes, but seriously, these parts of my life.
Watching Michael's microphone going off and on, going. You want to say something? You want to
say it. Say it.
I don't know what to say. I mean, I think it is tragic. It's definitely like it's a tragedy because of the circumstance, and he's an extraordinary character, and it kind of makes you wonder, like, what would he have done in another circumstance or whatever. So
yeah. And again, it is Messiah ben Yosef tragic. It is the betraying, the bad thing comes about, but it will ultimately bring everything. It's Good Friday, right? This is the tragedy, but it's the tragedy that brings about a goodness. It's the exile that means that Babylon gets a copy of the Torah. It's they will be the city on the hill, even if the message gets spread because of their subjugation. God will operate in our lives if we can. Please, Lord, use my strength, and if not, use my weakness. But to him always be the glory. Anything else to say?
No.
No. Thank you, everyone who tuned in for any amount of time. Thank you, Cassandra and Sondi and Mikhail. Michael, I have one question to ask about your name. Who is like God?
Well, everybody is a little bit.
But that's your name, right?
Yeah.
who is like God? Or are you the one who is like God? Is it a rhetorical question or is it a legitimate? Like you are the one who is like God?
I
Or
try to be, but I don't know.
yeah, you're an okay image. As far as images of God go, pretty good. The mighty beard helps, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Thanks guys.
Later.